Are we on? Well, friends, thank you for your patience. Can you hear me now? Do we have the stream going? We are live. Okay, I don't see the... Leslie, can you hear me? I see Leslie LaRue there. Isaiah, you can hear me? All right, great. Okay, good. Well, sorry for the audio problem. And we are back with our evening broadcast. And as usual, we are going to start with prayer from my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day. Let's see what July 29th has to say. From Luke chapter 10, verse 31. The priest happened to be traveling along that same road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Reflection. Perhaps the priest and the Levite walked by the victim on the roadside because they thought the robbers were around the corner waiting to attack them. They asked, "If I stop to help this man, what's going to happen to me?" The Good Samaritan reversed the question. If I don't stop to help this man, what's going to happen to him? Let us pray. Lord, may I stop calculating the risk to myself and instead ask, what will happen to the vulnerable if I don't help them? Well, friends, if you want to get this book for yourself, ProLifeReflectionsForEveryday.com is where you can order it. And the message of the Good Samaritan is exactly that. You know, it's a message that Martin Luther King Jr. preached on his last night on earth, that last rousing speech he gave, the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech in Memphis, Tennessee, when he was rallying the sanitation workers there. And he brought this up and he said, look, we've got to ask the question, what will happen to them? What will happen to those who are poor and vulnerable and mistreated and oppressed? And for us, that group of people above all are the unborn. What will happen to them? If we don't speak up, if we don't act up, and if we don't vote the right way. Voting the right way means voting for those who understand the purpose of government. How can you vote for someone who doesn't understand the fundamental purpose of government, which is to protect human life? And where is human life most unprotected? The children in the womb. That's where the test is. Because there's no other group of people from whom the protection of life itself is deprived. No other group. So it's a litmus test. It's a character test. It's a conscience test. It's a do you know why you're in public office test. It's a decency test. It's a test of, if you can't respect the life of a little baby, how can you respect our lives? That's what we have to ask of these politicians. Whether it's someone running for the House of Representatives, or the United States Senate, or the White House, or governor, or a state legislator, or mayor, or city council, anybody in every level of public office. If they can't understand that a little baby in the first 9 months of his or her existence has to be protected by law, listen, don't get sidetracked by all the justifications and arguments they try to use. You have failed on a very fundamental level. What's the purpose of government if we can't even escape the womb alive? Nobody's saying this is the only issue. What we're saying is we can't enjoy the progress we make on all the other issues if we don't get there alive. How come people don't understand this? So that brings up something that Jaime asked earlier on. I hope Jaime was able to come back after we had a little technical glitch. But here's the question that he asked, and I have a question about the question. But he says, what is the plan of pro-life for the born kids and children? So think about that question for a moment. Why do we have a pro-life movement? Is it to solve all the problems of the world? The pro-life movement came about, my friends, because the children in the first 9 months of their lives, the time that they're in the womb, were deprived of the protection of law that God gives to every other life once it is born. So when you ask what is the plan of pro-life for the born kids and children, well, who are you talking about? The plan of whom? Our movement, the pro-life movement, came about to address a very particular problem, which was that Roe v. Wade deprived children in the womb of the right to life. So we're here to fix that problem. We're not here to pretend that we can fix every problem for every person of every age. We're not pretending that. So when you say, what is the plan of pro-life, who are you talking about? Are you talking about the people that have dedicated themselves to protecting that child when they don't have the right to life recognized under law? Because when we save them from abortion, guess what? We've helped them for the rest of their life because we've saved their life. It's sort of like, God forbid if you're in a situation where you need a fireman to rescue you from a burning building or an emergency medical technician to save your life from some medical emergency. It's like saying, what are you going to do for me for the rest of my life? What's your plan for me after you rescue me from that burning building? Or, doctor, what's your plan for me after you, save me from my heart attack? What's your plan for me for the rest of my life? Do you ask your doctor that question? Do you ask your emergency medical technician what they're going to do for you for your life 20 years from now? Do you ask the firefighter that saves you or a family member or a little child? Let's say a firefighter saves a little child from a burning building. What's the plan of the firefighter for the child for the rest of his life? What is he supposed to say? I saved your life. So, Jaime, please don't imply by this question that somehow we who are trying to stop the biggest Holocaust in American history and human history don't care about children after they're born, really. Okay. Let's get Julie's question up on the board. Okay, you can erase Jaime's. Julie's question, Corey's question, really great questions, and I'm going to answer as many questions as I can, and I'm going to also give you a couple of action items as tonight's class for the Pro-Life MAGA. Julie, thank you for saying what you're saying here. Friends, Congressman John Lewis was highly regarded. I understand his funeral is tomorrow. Representative from Georgia. I knew him. I didn't know him well, but I knew him. He knew me, and we interacted on a number of occasions. Great civil rights activist. Worked with Dr. King in the civil rights movement. And so many people have really, really a great reverence for him, and I don't want to be disrespectful to him or his family. We mourn his passing. He did a lot of good things. But as Julie is pointing out, Mr. John Lewis, who passed away, stood against the unborn, was not in favor of protecting the unborn, failed to protect the most basic civil right, the right to life of the children in the first 9 months of their existence. And it's sad because that is a stain on his legacy when you think about it. Martin Luther King Jr. would never tolerate violence against the unborn. You know why we know that? And why Alveda, his niece, says that? And other members, by the way, of her family too. Because they understood that Dr. King's teaching was you don't do violence against anybody. He said that. He preached that. That's the whole basis of his teaching and preaching. You don't do violence against any human life. So how would he tolerate violence that rips babies apart in the womb? How could he possibly tolerate that? He wouldn't. So why did John Lewis tolerate that? And unfortunately, I think that the legacy and the otherwise, great example of civil rights advocacy of John Lewis is it's been tarnished by the hijacking of the Democrat Party. This took place in the late 70s to the abortion lobby. The abortion industry, the abortion lobby, hijacked that Democrat Party. And unfortunately put people like John Lewis in a position, and a lot of these in fact, every one of these Democrat members of Congress, find me a single one who stands up for the unborn. Dan Lipinski, the Democrat Party drove him out. Let's put Tracy Smith's comment on there too, and I'll get to that in a moment. Drove him out by not supporting him in his primary. So Dan Lipinski, the lone pro-life member of the House of Representatives in the Democrat Party, won't be returning to Congress in January. A couple of others, Henry Cuellar from Texas and Colin Peterson from Minnesota, occasionally at different times, in different ways, they vote pro-life. We thank you both for that. But, the exception proves the rule. Where are the other couple of hundred Democrats in the House of Representatives not voting for the unborn? So it's a terrible contradiction, and it's sad. All right, so let's remove that comment there. Joey Bartley left a comment earlier and said, keep politics out of religion. Well, Joey, it's kind of too late for that. Politics and religion both deal with human choices, how we organize ourselves, how we organize our lives, how we take care of other people. I mean, they're intimately connected. They're intimately connected one with the other. You can't separate them. We who are in the field of religion and teaching morality and teaching the gospel, how can we fail to teach people their moral responsibility in politics? We're teaching their moral responsibility. And the reason why we have to end up criticizing certain candidates and parties, i.e. the Democrats, is because they have allied themselves with evil. If a political party gets behind a holocaust of human beings like abortion, you don't think there's a moral component about that the church is duty-bound to address? Come on. And so Walter is asking who controls this pro-abortion party? Yeah, that is a very good question. There's a lot of pro-abortion billionaires that are pulling the strings behind the scenes. Planned Parenthood is very much in control of the party. You saw, for example, Walter, what really struck me, and some of you may have seen this as well, how when Planned Parenthood, there were hearings in Congress just a handful of years ago about Planned Parenthood. And the reason there were hearings was when in 2015 the videos came out about them selling baby body parts. There was actually action taken by Congress. And actually, when we and Life Dynamics first exposed this, almost 20 years earlier, Congress did not take action. This time they did. I think the power of social media has something to do with that. But in the hearing, here we were talking about serious criminal activity or potential criminal activity on the part of Planned Parenthood. And, when you have these hearings, obviously, half the committee is going to be Republican, half the committee is going to be Democrat. The Democrat members of the committee did not say one single bad word against Planned Parenthood. Not one of them. And here the purpose of the hearing was to investigate Planned Parenthood for criminal activity. And that to me was very telling. The influence Planned Parenthood has over the Democrat Party, because they give them money for their campaigns. Planned Parenthood, don't think of it as a health care organization. It's a political machine. and they pump tens of millions of dollars into the political campaigns of Democrats. So that's part of it, and so Planned Parenthood is pulling the strings. They're the largest entity in the abortion industry, and so there's where we see this, the power being exercised. So we'll get back to a lot of those things as we go forward. Carmen is saying, if we don't vote for a candidate that protects our precious unborn, that's the same as not speaking out for our most vulnerable. That's right. We are making the difference. We make the difference. When we put that person into office, we are speaking up for the unborn. In the very act of voting for that person, we share, because they're working for us, they're representing us, right? So very true observation. Then Tracy Smith is saying, Father, I just had someone who is a Catholic post on my Facebook that Roe v. Wade was settled years ago, and it was a moot point, and it would probably never be changed. It just infuriates me. Why do they think Roe v. Wade settled the abortion issue? Roe v. Wade was issued years ago, decades ago, almost 50 years now. But here's the thing to point out to your friend. Right up until a matter of a couple of weeks ago, not only lower courts in the federal court system, but even the Supreme Court was criticizing the Roe v. Wade decision. You look at this decision that was just decided, like I say, a couple of weeks ago out of the Supreme Court on the Louisiana abortion law, right? And you look at how divided the court still is on abortion, 5-4. And this isn't even the court that decided Roe v. Wade, right? The justices are all different. And you have a split decision, 5-4. And in that decision, among the dissents, you see criticism of Roe v. Wade. And then if you look at the lower courts, the appeals courts, the district courts, it is true to say that no decision of the Supreme Court in its history is more widely criticized than Roe v. Wade. And when I say criticized, I mean in two arenas. First, in multiple arenas, but first, within the court system itself. More judges, in their opinions, have criticized Roe v. Wade than any other decision. And by the way, on our website, you can look this up. It's there. We have the articles, we have the attorneys, we have the examples. And lower courts have to follow the rulings of the Supreme Court on the issues that they are dealing with in their courts. It doesn't resolve the case that's before them in all its details, but often it'll give them some very important guidance and decide certain things about it anyway. So a lower court and a judge on that court has to apply the Roe v. Wade precedent, but doesn't have to agree with it. He or she can criticize it, and they do in their decisions. Furthermore, not only in the court system, but in the general public, there's no decision that has met with more sustained, vigorous opposition than Roe v. Wade. If your friend Tracy thinks that Roe v. Wade is settled and that it's a moot point, ask her what all those hundreds of thousands of people are doing in Washington, D.C. every single year coming to protest Roe versus Wade. Do you think it's settled? Does it feel like a settled issue in America? By no means. And if your friend thinks that somehow the court cannot or will not reverse Roe v. Wade, well, think again, because it was a longer period of time before the court reversed its ruling on segregation. It was a longer period of time than the time that has passed so far from Roe v. Wade until now. So to think it's a settled matter, hey, just look at what the courts are saying, look at what the public is saying, and look at what history says. The court has reversed itself after a much longer time than we have had since Roe v. Wade. So, thank you, Tracy. Linda is saying, so Father, why can't they hold doctors accountable for murder? Well, And now, Dr. Kermit Gosnell is being held accountable for murder, that Philadelphia abortionist, because he violated state law. He killed babies even outside the womb. The problem with a technical legal violation and accusation of murder is that again, because of the way that the court has ruled on abortion, they're not recognizing the unborn as a person, and therefore it's not legally murder, even though it is morally murder. So, but these doctors mess up in a lot of other ways, and Gosnell is in jail for having killed babies in the course of an abortion when they were alive outside the womb. The abortion did not kill them, in other words. And also for killing them later in pregnancy than the law in Pennsylvania permits. And he also killed some mothers, too. And all these things were subjects of his court hearings back in 2013. That's when that all came about. Julie again is asking if the laws of our land supersede the laws of heaven, is this not a grave error? Well, it certainly is. It's a grave error morally and philosophically, and it's even a grave error in the eyes of our founding fathers. Let me again recommend to you a book. I've mentioned it before, by my friend and colleague David Barton, B-A-R-T-O-N, founder of Wall Builders, a great organization that is called Original Intent. The name of the book is Original Intent. And he quotes the founding fathers at great length, saying, and they believed this and they said this all the time, they said, the law of heaven far surpasses man-made laws. Our founding fathers said there are two categories of law. In fact, our Declaration of Independence refers to the laws of nature and of nature's God, right? The founders understood any human law has to correspond to the divine law. It can never contradict it. The divine law is superior. I mean, this has been taken as a self-evident truth, except in our day, it's an idea that's been thrown out the window. Patricia's asking a very important question: what will happen if Roe v. Wade is reversed? Well, in a nutshell, of course, it depends on exactly how they reverse it, because they can reverse it in various different ways legally. But bottom line is, the most common opinion among legal experts and pro-life leaders is that the court would say to the states, you may now protect the unborn if you wish, if you want. If you vote that way in your state, you may now protect the unborn. And so it would be up to the states. Now, that's, again, as I say, the most common opinion. That's not necessarily the way it needs to be. What I would like to see is that the court says you must protect the unborn because they are persons under the Constitution. But what would happen? Well, what would happen legally under the more prevalent opinion is that in some states it would be immediately illegal. And let's take that Phyllis Gibson, Anna Marie and Phyllis Gibson. Boy, these are great questions, friends. Thank you for facilitating this discussion. But in some states, abortion would become immediately illegal and the unborn would be protected. In other states, the opposite would happen, because under the state constitution or the state law, abortion would remain legal. And put Corey Morse's question on there too, as well as Anna. Anna, yeah, okay. And then in some states, it would be up for grabs, and it would become a state battle. And we would have to lobby the state legislators to protect the unborn. So the work would continue of educating people on abortion. The work would continue of the pregnancy centers as well. And of course, the work would continue for healing the wounds of abortion. All of that would happen in the event of a Roe v. Wade reversal. And it's coming. It's coming. Believe me, it's coming. How do we get Roe v. Wade reversed? I'll tell you the number one next thing that has to be done, and I think you know what I'm going to say, to get Roe v. Wade reversed. We have to elect President Trump. We have to re-elect the Republican senators, and they appoint the judges. We got to get the right judges on the courts to reverse Roe v. Wade. We got to get the president back in the White House. We've got to get a Republican Senate. Because the fact of the matter is, my friends, whatever you might think about, if you're in a state where there's a Senate election, whatever you might think about the Republican candidate, I mean, you may have some other things against him or her or not like them very much. But please understand, President Trump's pro-life judges will not be confirmed if the Democrats take over the Senate. Because what they will do is, even if they even allow a vote on his judges, what will happen is that they will not approve them if they think they're too pro-life. What happens when you've got the Democrats in charge is that they force weaker candidates to be nominated, even if the Republican majority is very, very slim. You know, we picked up a couple of Senate seats in 2018, and that made a more comfortable margin for President Trump to appoint stronger judges because we didn't have to worry if we lost one or two Republican votes. And because Senator Collins and Murkowski are sometimes iffy. But now we have enough of a margin where in this Congress, even if they both said no to a Trump judge because they think he or she is too pro-life, the majority could still get the judge confirmed. How are we going to reverse Roe v. Wade? There's many things that have to happen, and many of those things are happening. But this election needs to go the right way. And we need the House too, but we need the House because we need pro-life legislation. They, of course, don't have a role in confirming the judges. But it's so essential. It's so essential to win this election. Anna is talking about soliciting money. Well, I mean, it's not prohibited by the social media, you know, and certainly we don't make that the cornerstone of our programming. But thank you for mentioning that. Phyllis is saying a Franciscan priest on Twitter said that you can be a Catholic and vote Democrat because they will take care of the poor. It can't just be about abortion. My goodness, this Franciscan priest doesn't seem to realize a couple of things. First of all, he's saying that the Democrats are going to take care of the poor while they're killing the poor in the womb? I mean, what kind of logic is that? Secondly, the Republicans take care of the poor. But you see, it's not a difference in the philosophy of whether we should take care of the poor. It's a difference in the philosophy of whose responsibility is that? Is it the responsibility of individuals, families, churches, organizations that are brought together, like Food for the Poor and Catholic Relief Services and incredible worldwide agencies that are caring for the poor, and our personal responsibility thrown into that, and the churches inspiring people to be generous with the poor and sending missionaries and creating organizations and social services? The philosophy here is different between the Republicans and the Democrats. Don't think that the Democrats are more in favor of taking care of the poor just because they think it ought to be some government agency that takes care of the poor instead of the individual, the family, and the church and organizations that citizens freely come together to create in order to help the poor. It's much better when it's in the hands of those people than some federal aid. The Democrats, sure, yeah, come to the federal government, we'll help you. Now, certainly government has an important role and responsibility to facilitate care for the poor. But what are we supposed to do? Write to a federal agency in order to, get the assistance we need for the poor? This Franciscan priest has got it all wrong. You can't vote Democrat. First of all, it'll be unrestricted abortion. And that increases poverty. But people don't realize abortion increases poverty because it's so damaging to that mother that it takes away in the lives of so many people the ability to hold on to a job, to make decisions, to persevere in their work and in their relationships. It destroys people and it destroys societies. But besides that, I presume this Franciscan priest wants to continue to be able to preach and to let the church do her work, doesn't he? Does he not realize that the Democrats are not in favor of religious freedom? They're in favor of forcing the consciences of believers to fund abortion, to include abortion in health insurance, and President Trump has done so much to protect and promote the freedom of the church, saving us from the HHS mandates, what the Little Sisters of the Poor, Priests for Life, dioceses, institutions, universities, religious groups is all about. He protected us from being forced to violate our conscience. The right of medical professionals to object in conscience, and really of any citizen to object in conscience if they feel that the law or the government is forcing them to violate their conscience. President Trump set up an entire new office to deal with that, the Office of Conscience and Religious Freedom. He advocated and took executive action for the rights of children to pray in schools and rights of college students to speak out on campus, and the rights of pastors to preach in the pulpit. He has taken specific executive actions for all these things, and he has taken executive action. You don't read about this every day in the headlines. You won't hear about this from the fake news. But he has taken executive action to make sure that religious groups and churches, when they do business in the public square or when they contract with the government, and the Catholic Church does a lot of this, that it's just as easy for them to do their work as it is for an organization that's not religious. Do you realize that for us who are religious organizations, we have to jump through so many other additional hoops in order to get working contracts with government agencies to help the poor, like this Franciscan is trying to do? They make it way harder for us. The Obama administration made it way harder for us. We feel like we have to bend over backwards and we have to sideline our faith. And President Trump has done exactly the opposite and made it easier for us. So thank you, Phyllis, for pointing that out. Corey says, I believe you said Joe Biden, can't be Catholic because he's pro-abortion. Shouldn't every Catholic know this? They should. And the bishops have said it. But getting the word out is just, it's hard. Getting the word out is hard. But yeah, every Catholic should know this, and that's why we help priests to preach it. Nancy, I mentioned about Kermit Gosnell, and Nancy is asking rightly, why aren't more clinics being checked for violations? Gosnell had baby parts in canning jars. That's right. And the reason that the more clinics aren't being checked for violations, even, first of all, there are not enough state laws requiring that. And the Republicans on the state level, that's why this election is important on the state level as well as the federal level. But check it out, Republicans on the state level are trying to pass laws that are stricter on these abortion clinics and require more frequent inspections. And the Democrats oppose those laws. Why? We got to ask them. What's the matter with them? That's one of the reasons. The second reason is even when there are laws like this, abortion is such a hot button issue. We saw it in Pennsylvania. It's one of the reasons Gosnell got away with what he did, is that there were laws on the books. And there were complaints made to the Department of Health. And because it dealt with abortion, they turned a blind eye. The abuses in Gosnell's clinic were discovered not because they were inspecting it as an abortion clinic, but because they were tipped off about illegal use of prescription drugs. And it was a drug raid, during which, by surprise, they found these aborted babies, as you say, in the jars, in the refrigerator, and so forth. Look up the Gosnell movie. Watch the Gosnell movie, my friends. If you haven't watched it yet, watch the Gosnell movie. Marie, God bless you. For being a Republican in a Democratic state. I know Rhode Island and have preached up there many times. I don't know if you know Father Giacomo Capoverde, but look him up. He's a Rhode Island priest that is a real warrior for pro-life. And God bless you there with among all those liberal Democrat voters. I know what you mean. And it's the character of Rhode Island. But as Father Capoverde knows, there's a lot of good, faithful, pro-life folks up there as well. Strong Republicans too. Get connected with the people like Father Capoverde, and you could look. He's here on social media too, Father Giacomo Capoverde. But yeah, I understand that it's a problem. But you know what? It's a great place to bear witness. It's a great place to, ask some very basic questions like, hey, what about, I know that they had, a push in this last legislature to make the laws on abortion even more liberal and wide open. Ask why. It's like, show the pictures, read the descriptions of abortion, talk to people about it. Say, why can't we protect these babies? That's all we're asking. Where do we get, Anne Marie is asking a very important question, Anna Maria Gomez, thank you for being here. Where do we get details of all the candidates in the upcoming elections by state, like the primaries? Okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you two websites, Anna Marie and all of you. Two websites. iVoterGuide.com. You will find at that website information about I might say information, lots of information about the candidates. Down onto the state level, iVoterGuide.com. And not only does it give information on their positions, it says who endorsed them, who did they endorse, who donated to them, who did they donate to. Lots of good information. And then backing up from that, that's one resource. Backing up from that, one of our websites is votinginfo.org. And on one of these upcoming classes, these MAGA classes, we're going to go into detail about all these different sources where you can find the positions of the candidates. But votinginfo.org is a good place to start. I have a few paragraphs there explaining information about how to assess the candidates. And then you'll be able to go to places like the iVoterGuide.com. So thanks for that. Important question. It's a question that we'll be hammering on a lot in these next 97 days. How did the general public react to finding those baby parts at the Gosnell abortion mill? With horror, those who knew about it. But you know what? The reaction of the public wasn't as strong as it should have been for one very simple reason. I was there in the courtroom together with our Priests for Life, some of our Priests for Life team, and there was a whole section of the courtroom reserved for the media. Guess what? It was empty. The media weren't there. So the word about the trial wasn't going to get out. We helped to change that. Our youth director, Brian Kemper, started a real Twitter storm on Twitter, getting reporters, calling out reporters individually to pay attention to that trial. And as the trial came to its culmination, things did turn around and media did come there. And people were they were horrified by what they heard. But we have short memories, and unfortunately, a lot of people have forgotten. We have to remind. That's one of the missions of our movement, is to keep reminding people of basic things that have happened, have been revealed, but it's so easy to forget. Corey, thank you so much for your nice comment, and I hope you do tune in more. Look forward to you tuning in more, and please spread the word to others too. Thank you so much. And Phyllis, that's right, you're reminding us about the movie Unplanned, and so on and so forth. Okay, well, I wanted to give you tonight, Molly Hemingway. Corey is mentioning Molly. I know Molly. Molly does a great job. Molly co-authored a book about the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. That was another big fiasco, wasn't it? With another friend of mine, Carrie Severino. The two of them are just some of the most intelligent women that I know, experienced. They know what's going on with the courts. They know what's going on with politics. Molly Hemingway and Carrie Severino. Look up their book, Justice on trial. It's all about the confirmation process for Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and really good book. But I want to, before you go, friends, before we finish, I want to show you an example, a few examples of a project that I want to invite you to do. And here's what it is, very simply. Remember, these programs, especially on Monday and Wednesday nights, are about the elections, although we talk about it every day. Tomorrow night, by the way, tomorrow night will be our scripture lesson. Tomorrow night is the light, pro-life and scripture, the light. So tomorrow night will be our scripture lesson. But during these programs, we want to give you practical things you can do for the election. All right. Would you be willing, most of you, you're on social media, you're watching me on social media, would you be willing to take your phone and make a little 30-second video? And here's what the video would be. I'm going to show you some examples of it. Hello, I'm John. I live in Florida, and I support President Trump because, and then you give just one reason. You may have many reasons, as do I, but just one reason why you support the president for re-election. Or you can, if you can fit in a couple of them, that's fine. But just 30 seconds, you can go beyond 30, 40, 50 seconds, but not more than a minute. And if you would be willing to post that, either post that on your social media and then send us the link, or you use the hashtag I support President Trump because. That is the hashtag you can use. We can look up the hashtag and then grab a copy of the video. We would like to use the video also. And you know who else would like to see the video? Again, as long as it's okay with you, the Trump campaign would like to see the video. So we want to gather as many of these videos as we can, as soon as we can. I want to show you a few examples so that you know what I'm talking about. This is not difficult to do. Let's play a few examples of these simple videos that some of our fellow citizens are creating.
Hi, my name is Kevin Burke. I'm a licensed social worker, and I've been involved in abortion, healing, ministry, and counseling for over 20 years. I'm very concerned, friends, that if the Democratic Party takes control of the White House and Congress, they will place left-wing radicals in key positions of power in our federal bureaucracy and in their president's administration. It's not a stretch to envision a future with a Democratic-controlled Congress and White House where a failure to affirm the civil right of reproductive choice is a hate crime, subject to fines and even jail time. And at the very least, and we've seen this already happening, professional and public destruction and humiliation for those who do not toe the party line. Those of us in abortion healing ministries should not consider ourselves safe from this assault. We would be a direct threat to anyone with a strong pro-abortion agenda. The Trump administration will continue to protect the children in the womb, and President Trump will continue to protect us in healing ministries from attacks by professional and governmental organizations that will want to shut us down. The Trump administration will continue to protect our religious liberties. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Brian Kemper, and I'm voting for Donald Trump. I want to give you 11 reasons why I'm voting for Donald Trump. First 10 are simple. My 7 children and my 3 grandchildren. I want them to be able to grow up in a country they can be proud of and that they can prosper in. The last reason, the abortion holocaust. A vote for Joe Biden is a vote for killing innocent babies up until 9 months and maybe beyond. So there it is, the 11 reasons why I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Hello, friends. I'm Father Frank Pavone, National Director of Priests for Life, the largest pro-life ministry in the Catholic Church. And I enthusiastically support President Trump for many reasons. But one of the main ones is that he literally saved our ministry. The fact is that in the Obama-Biden administration, they imposed a mandate that would force us to violate our faith by including abortion in our health insurance plans. We said no. We fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, but it was President Trump who removed that mandate. Biden has said he would put it back. So I support President Trump because if he weren't where he is, we wouldn't be where we are.
Hello, I'm Father Dennis Wild, Augustinian and Catholic priest. This election in November couldn't contrast candidates for president further apart. Donald Trump is the first president to come and speak on behalf of the threatened babies by abortion. He did this at the March for Life in Washington this past January in person. By contrast, Joe Biden publicly supports allowing babies to be killed up into the time of birth, as does most of the entire Democratic Party, the House and the Senate. Let's never forget it. Social justice begins in the womb. All lives matter, born and unborn. Without life legally protected, all other rights eventually fail. As a Catholic priest and citizen, I am voting for President Trump.
Hello, I'm Evangelist Alveda King, Executive Director of Civil Rights for the Unborn for Priest for Life. I support President Donald John Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America, because the Bible says we should pray for those who are in authority that we can live peaceful lives. President Trump is the 45th President of the United States of America. He's America's greatest pro-life president ever. He's also a champion for criminal justice reform, education, equality in education, and economic justice. If we want a safe, secure, and peaceful country, thank God for President Trump.
Hello, I'm Janet Morana. I'm from Florida, and I am supporting and voting for our wonderful president, Donald Trump, because he has to have 4 more years. You know why? He's the most pro-life president we've ever had in the history of our nation, and he will sign pro-life bills into law if put on his desk. He's protecting us from the HHS mandate, and I could just go on. And finally, my 401k has increased since President Trump's been in office, and more people I know are getting job opportunities. I mean, businesses are coming back to the United States, which not exporting jobs overseas. So besides my pro-life convictions, I love how patriotic our president is. So I'm voting for Trump, and I hope you do too.
Hi, I'm Jim Nelson from Marietta, Georgia. I support President Trump because he's done more for the unborn than any president ever has. That's the people that can't speak for themselves, and he supports them. He's done more for them. He won't defund the police. He won't allow socialism to take over our country. He will keep the country under God with moral values and religious values. He has done a fantastic job with employment, with world trade, and with COVID virus. So please support him. This is an important election.
The reason that I would like to see President Trump reelected is because I have a firm purpose in trying to help the unborn baby to have the voice that they need to have to stay alive. It's unfortunate that we have murdered so many people in this country already who could have been valuable to our country. I'm also interested in keeping the economy going as he has started. I remember when Obama was in for 8 years, I noticed something that was very obvious to me, that the working man was not out on the river with his fishing boat anymore. They couldn't afford it, that the economy was so bad. And another reason is because I have family members who are in law enforcement, and I know that President Trump is going to do his best for the law enforcement people.
Hello, I'm Teresa Watson from Florida, and I support President Trump because as a Catholic woman, he 100% supports my pro-life views. But on a personal note, my husband and I, for the first time since the Obama administration, can see ourselves as possibly retiring one day. Our investments have increased to where we can see a way to be able to do that. So I'm voting for President Trump in November, and I certainly hope you will too. Thank you.
Oh, how I would love to see a video like that from all of you. To the extent that you can do it, friends, This will go a long way. You know why? Because our fellow citizens, you know, they could hear about the arguments and they could hear the political rhetoric, but when they hear heart to heart, face to face, from their fellow citizens, why they're supporting the president, that moves the soul. That encourages people. Your personal testimony, do not underestimate how far that can go. We each have one vote, as we always say, but we can each influence countless other votes. And that's how we win. And you know why? One of my great reasons for confidence that the president will be reelected is what we're seeing in the polling is that when you measure the enthusiasm level on the different sides of the issue. Let's take Rosenda's question, by the way, Zach. When you measure the enthusiasm level, our side is far more enthusiastic for President Trump than, it's that one right down there, than Biden's people are for him. And that's what makes the difference in elections, because it's not just the voting, the individual, everybody has one vote. It's how many other votes. Depending how enthusiastic you are, you're going to be able to do things to reach other votes, right? So here's what you do. Get help if you need it from your friends or family. Just look into the camera, 30 seconds. I'm Phyllis. I'm from Pennsylvania. I support President Trump because he's the most pro-life president we ever had. You know, I'm John. I'm from Ohio. I support President Trump because he supports school choice. I'm Larry. I'm from Florida. I support the president because he takes care of our veterans. It could be as, you know, very, very simple. So if you can do that, let us know. Again, you have a few different options. Okay, number one, if you want to post it on your social media, send us the link, or use the hashtag I support President Trump because, as a hashtag, all one word. And then we'll look up the hashtag and we'll see your video. Okay, so we'll, be able to find it that way. And then you could let us know at vote@priestsforlife.org. That's our political email, vote@priestsforlife.org. Tell us that you did the video, and then we'll connect with you. Now, if you don't want to post it on your social media, that's okay too. But if you make the video, email us, and then we can arrange for how you can get it to us. There's a couple of different options you have. You might be familiar with Dropbox. Again, you could consult someone else among your family or friends or coworkers that could advise you on that. My friends, this would be a treasure. And then with your permission, I could even share it with the campaign, or we can share it on our own social media, just like these individuals you just saw gave us permission to do. Oh, I appreciate it, friends. I really appreciate it. And finally, Rosenda Chavez. Yes, and Nancy, the answer to that is yes. You can just send it to me. Yeah, absolutely. By all means. A number of different options here. Contact us if you have any questions. Vote@priestsforlife.org is the email. Now, Carmen is actually correcting this person who's asking this question. I was trying to correct her, Carmen says, and tell her it was Obama who locked them in the cages. That's right. Look it up. Why do people, that's what this questioner is asking. I don't like Trump. If he really cared about children, he wouldn't be putting them in cages. He's not putting them in cages. President Obama started this, but President Trump was trying to keep families together. This has been a back and forth effort to try to figure out the best way to protect families that are coming into the country. Look up the facts. This is not something that President Trump is guilty of. And you know what? You're talking about caring for children. Joe Biden wants to have their heads cut off. So even if this idea that's going around there were true, that the president is putting kids in cages, it's not about putting them in cages. But even if that misconception were true, you know what the Democrats are doing? They're chopping their arms and legs off by abortion. chopping off their arms and legs while they're alive. 3,000 a day in our country in these abortion clinics. You don't see that as worse? The president has taken care of the families that are trying to come into this country. Again, just, look up the facts, and we'll go into this in more detail, by the way, in one of our future programs. And that's exactly right, Christine. Obama and Biden are the ones responsible for the abuse of our asylum laws. I mean, there's a lot of mythology going around about this. But how in the world can you compare what President Trump is doing in trying to protect these children, trying to protect all children, trying to end the practice of late-term abortion? The Democrats are all in. They want us to pay for children actually being decapitated. And this, as opposed to the mythology about the cages and what President Trump is doing, this is reality. The medical textbooks call abortion decapitation and dismemberment. They describe how the arms and legs are pulled off. And just ask any of the Democrats, do you want abortion to occur legally and you want it to happen? And then just find out, look up what an abortion is. The arms and legs are ripped off a living baby. The head is chopped off. And you're gonna say it's President Trump that doesn't care about children? Oh, no, we're not gonna let you get away with that. So, well, listen, this is great. I really appreciate all of you. The hour goes by so fast. I had another video to show you, but I'm gonna hold off on that until Friday night. Come every night if you can. Come join me at 9 p.m. Get other people to join me at 9 p.m. I know you have other things to do as well. We'll connect with each other as often as we can. But listen, all hands on deck. We need each and every one of you reaching as many people as you possibly can each and every day, these next 97 days, to win these elections. And remember this, let me close with this thought. The voting is not simply on November 3rd. You know when the voting begins? September 19th. Early voting in some states begins 45 days before election day. Yvonne is asking how you can send something to me. Again, vote@priestsforlife.org is one of our main email addresses. Any of you at any time on any topic, feel free to email me. And if you have something you want to show me, I always appreciate getting it. Yvonne, it's vote@priestsforlife.org. And again, you see the hashtag at the bottom of the screen right now. I support President Trump, because that's a hashtag to use if you post your 30 to 60 second video about why you support the president, or if you want to just send it to me. Again, vote@priestsforlife.org, and we'll work with you and work out the best way to do that. I appreciate each and every one of you, and now let me give you a blessing. May the Lord bless you, your families, your work. May He answer all your prayers, and may He make you eager defenders, effective defenders of the unborn. May He bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father Frank Pavone here of Priests for Life. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you tomorrow.